we're going to do mosaics. I think all of you have seen all the mosaics I've made in the past. I'll just fill up water. Just give me 1 minute. So mosaics, I think we have most people in. We can probably get started because this is going to be a little time consuming. We may or may not finish an entire final piece before class ends, but it can be carried home to, I mean, taken forward to finish. So that's not a problem. But it takes a little time to do mosaics in terms of like actual time. It's not difficult. It's quite easy. Just takes a long time to finish something. Okay. Now, those of you who have seen my mosaics would have seen that I use a lot of shapes. And in reality, I mean, mosaic is a piece of art that is created from broken pieces. So if you look at the history of mosaics, you're going to see that it was mostly done with tile, with glass, with those kinds of broken shards. When you don't know what to do with pieces like this, you sort them into colors. And after you have sort them into colors, you start using them to form a shape. Like you join colors into some kind of a pattern, suggesting a shape. And when they come together individually, maybe they will not look like anything. But when you put enough shapes next to each other, they start to form a pattern, and that pattern gives you like the whole picture, the bigger picture. Okay. So I know Alka has done a mosaic, gone for an actual mosaic class, right? Where you've actually used pieces of tile to make something. Yeah, correct. So the concept, whether what has happened after this, after the original way in which a lot of European architecture involves use of mosaics and things like that, people took it forward. So now in today's day and age, you can do a mosaic project with kids, a craft project. So if you've noticed, most KG kids will be doing a kind of a mosaic thing where they take colored marble paper, tear it up into small pieces. In fact, it's one of those exercises where they actually build their skills. And the shape of an apple. So by doing this, you are teaching them basically that even with those broken pieces, you can make something that forms a shape, that forms a pattern that is recognizable. Okay. From craft, you can take it forward into other mediums. So here we are, of course, doing it in watercolor, but it can be done in other mediums like pencil or crayons. But watercolor particularly is an excellent medium because it has, I mean, transparency is a key factor in watercolor, right? So it kind of mimics the effect that you would find with glass and tile, which is the fact that there is unevenness in the color itself. So if I take a color blue, I want to show uneven shades of blue. Not every piece in a mosaic has got the same exact shade. Some may be slightly darker blue, some may be slightly lighter. And in spite of that, when we join them up together, you can see a very cohesive looking shape form. So we are going to use watercolor and its transparency to make our mosaic look uneven naturally. Okay, we don't have to make much effort. It is just the fact that we are adding water and pigment in varying proportions. We're not worrying about that proportion. And so every time we make a shape with that watercolor, you're going to see slightly darker, slightly lighter versions of the same color if you're using the same color. That's okay. Most of my mosaics that are there on Instagram, at least, are using shapes that have edges or sides. So these are geometric shapes. So when we are making mosaics, you have this option of making um, geometric shapes. When I say geometric shapes, doesn't mean that it has to be shapes that are uh, uh, that have names like a rhombus or a um, quadrilateral. No, it can be a shape that has an edge. That's the meaning of geometric shape is it has an edge. So I may have used use a triangle. I may use a what is this? This is a rhombus? No, this is not rhombus. This is I've forgotten my shapes clearly. This is
Parallelogram.
what parallelogram. Oh, but what is a rhombus then?
The second one is a rhombus.
Really?
The second one can be a rhombus because it's got the like
Or
equal
like a
sides.
diamond shape.
Yeah, it's diamond.
Yeah,
Rhombus
yeah.
is more
So,
like a diamond shape.
The third
yeah,
one.
Susan, you
yeah.
have to
I think it's something.
spotlight. You have to spotlight your
Oh,
screen, is it?
oh, sorry. Good, you told me. I didn't realize. There you go. So here are my geometric shapes. I'm using different shapes. Some of them may not be definable. Shape like this, okay, has no name for it, but it is still, we are going to consider putting it in the category of geometric shapes because it has an edge. So when you pile these kind of shapes next to each other, you are going to get a mosaic that has a form that has these little edges arranged next to each other. Okay, there is no good and bad. It is just a way. It's just a style of making mosaics. The other is you make a mosaic with what may look like amoeboid shapes, no edges. Okay, but the shape doesn't. It is varying shape. Each one varies, and it is not one with an a shape is not one with an edge. So I would say, just give me one. I wanted to say non-geometric, but the correct terminology would be organic shapes.
Like a jigsaw, you mean?
No.
Like jigsaw.
Yeah, I mean, a jigsaw is still, yeah, you could say slightly, but it is not organic. Jigsaw still has some definite form, even though it has curves and edges. It has got curves and edges. It wouldn't really still be organic. Organic would be something like this. I have a shape like this attached to a shape like this, and then moves into a shape like this. Um, I'm just making it up, but it doesn't have an edge. Okay. So you can make an entire mosaic from things like this also. Okay. In fact, I would say spots on a leopard and those kind of things are very organic, right? They are nature's mosaics. So, so this would be another way in which you can create mosaics, and that would have a different look. Okay. But today what we are going to focus on are the geometric shapes because that is the more popularly seen mosaic. And the other thing I'll tell you why you see the geometric shapes more is because originally, like we discussed, people use tile and glass. And when you break tile and glass, naturally tile and glass breaks with an edge, not in circles, not in other shapes, right? So if you take a piece of tile and break it, it will create an edge somewhere wherever it has the most path of least resistance, it will break at that point. Okay, so that is why this has become more popular or is seen more often. Now you have a lot of artists who use this kind of organic shapes also to create, because when you're painting, there is no restriction on what type of shape you use. All right. Then let's take our colors and we will start off straight away. Wet your colors. We can probably take a color that we don't use often. which is like my green. I have one green here. And we'll start now. What a mosaic needs is is fine motor skills. Fine motor skills are important because you have to draw a shape and you have to keep that shape. So if you are not particular and if you're just moving your brush too fast, it is possible your shape may go a little off, and then that affects the next shape that you're putting. So let us just start with a square. Okay. And this one right now I'm using a size 2, I think. One matter. Size 2. Size 2. I'm using a size 2, but eventually when we do our final piece, we may end up using a size 0. Huh? I'm using a size, so for mosaics, smaller sizes will be better, but that is also subject to whether you are making small sized shapes. Now, my square here, look at the way I put the square down. I'm not worried about the way the watercolor has moved inside the square. So when I ended the painting it, I got a blob of water at one end, a blob of pigment at one end, and the other end doesn't have much. It's all distributed. So this is excellent when you're making a mosaic. Don't correct this. In any other case, what we would have done is we would have dried our brush, picked up that blob. Don't pick up the blob. Okay. Now, when I'm placing the next square next to it, go back, dip it in a little bit of water so that now your pigment has lightened. Place that square right next to the square. Look at the space I've left. It's just enough for it to not touch the previous square. And this time you'll notice it is lighter than my earlier square. Again, let the blobs be where they are. I'll go back in, take a little more pigment, make one more square next to it. Keep it as close as you can as long as it is not touching. The moment it touches, the water and the pigment will move across. Okay. So now here we are creating a mosaic which is one single color, and you can go on and on this way. I'm just doing this as an exercise where we slow down and feel the intention of our brush strokes. Very, very intentional. And in spite of it, I'm going to get varying shades of the same color. The next thing we can do in a mosaic, because it is watercolor and because we have, that is the advantage we are going to use. Let us use, now I'm taking another color, okay? Let's take a blue color, any blue, it doesn't matter. Blue and green are next to each other on a shade chart. So you can use these two colors to blend. We are going to make a mosaic that uses blending of two colors. So mosaic shape like this, I'm going below and making another square, filling it with blue. Go into the next. Okay, fill it again with blue. But this time around, that green which was there, no? I'm going to just drop in thoda green here. And let it do whatever it wants to do. It wants to sit there. Now my paper is such that it doesn't let the watercolor spread nicely. So that's okay. Now I'm going with green. This time because my brush is already green. Going with green and dropping in some blue. I know it is probably not visible on the screen as well, but if you look at your own paper, you will see that blue and green are mixing anyhow. We are not interfering with the mix. So in mosaics, you can blend colors. So what you have to keep in mind when you're blending colors on a same shape, and we're talking about blending colors on the same shape, is that you have to consider what color you're putting the into the existing color, the first color. It has to be a color that is not complementary. It's not the opposite color. It is the color that is next to it on the shade chart. So if you're using a blue, you can blend in a yellow, you can blend in a green, that is acceptable. If you try to put red or orange, you're going to get a muddy mix, right? We all know that the color on the opposite end of the wheel, opposite of the wheel, is going to definitely give you a brown. So be very, very watchful what color you're putting in. So here now I put green and blue. Now blue will go well with purple. So I can do a blue and purple, that kind of a thing. Okay. If you're doing yellow, yellow and orange. So keep that in mind when you're doing blending of colors inside of a single shape. If it's another shape, it's fine. Doesn't make a difference. But if it's inside a single shape, you don't want the muddy mix. Okay. Now that we've tried squares, let's try moving mosaics to our patterns. We want to draw mosaics inside a shape. And if you want to draw it inside a shape, we have to give it some guideline. Okay. So I'm going to draw here a curve like this in pencil. Take a pencil and just draw a curve. We just want to show what it would look like. So this is your pencil guide. And on this, using this pencil guide, we'll add some mosaic shapes to it. Okay. We can start with maybe red. Okay. And what I'm doing is, I'm starting off with only squares or rectangles, whatever you call them. I am not touching the pencil mark. Let me just show this to you close up so you can get it. I'm using a red now. Whatever color you use doesn't matter. We just want to do this as an exercise. Okay, I'll show it to you closer. Can you see that I am not touching the line? Okay. So make sure that this is the way you are proceeding, because eventually when you finish whatever mosaic you do, you will erase these pencil lines, these guides. Okay. And in any case, whatever shape you are putting has to not touch the next shape. So you have to leave that little space. Leave that space here. Now I'm going lighter with little more water. Still, if you notice, I'm keeping it easy because we are not changing our shapes as such. We're just continuing with one shape. Okay. So I've got a shape here and it's adhering to this. Now, when you come to these corners, somebody asked me last time, when you come to the corner, it's not looking like a square. It is not, it's fine. It's fine if it's not looking like a square. That's where you make the adjustment. I'm going to adjust it and make it look like something that will fit the space I want to put it in. This is what mosaic painting is about, fitting a shape in a space that it is the shape that has to change, not the space. The space is not going to change, right? So you have to fit a shape in the space that you have. So you may have to alter what you're doing. Now I will go in with a little bit of orange in the shade. Now I'm drawing boxes below the line. See? Let's stack them, okay? So it looks like it's stacked. I'll start with a little bit of orange. Now I'm going to mix a little red and orange because those are colors that are okay to mix. They'll work together well. So here's my orange. Let me drop in a little red. Now it's turned a little red. Now what we are going to do with this mosaic is we are going to create something of a shading. Imagine that we have an object that we want to show shading to. Like we want to show shading of maybe light to dark. The object is a vase and the light is falling from the right. And you want to show that the right side of the vase is lighter and the left side of the vase is darker. But we are using the same brown color. So what do? We start lightening the brown on the shapes of the mosaic that are on the right, and we darken the brown on the left side. And by doing that, you can cause a gradient. You can cause the shades to show very well, naturally, very cohesively. Here, on the other hand, I'm not using shading as a, like how we would use one color and shade. I'm going to take 2 or 3 colors. So for example, red, orange, yellow, that sort of a shading. Not shading with one color. So here's my orange. In between, you may have an orange that's very dark. That is fine. Now, slowly, I will start dipping into gamboge. Next line. I'm dipping into gamboge, so my orange is starting to get lighter. But overall, the gap between the shapes is consistent overall. When you're doing this, a few things can happen. One, while you're getting very close to a shape, it may go and touch the next shape. So you can do some things for these kind of mistakes. One is join the two shapes. Suppose now I'm putting a shape very close here, and by mistake, I touched the shape that is already wet. Okay. Now, if I touched it, you can do this. Join it, make it one single large shape. Okay. And then continue. Sometimes when you do this, it looks a little odd. I have now a rectangular shape when everything else was square. So depending on your situation, on the situation you are in, this may work for you or this may not work for you. Now, in this case, it's not working for me to have joined it. Still, leave it. Let it dry. And after it has dried, you can go in with a either white paint, thick paint, like poster color, or your jelly roll pen and draw in that line in between, separating the two shapes. That white line is not going to be visible to the person who looks at the larger mosaic. They're not going to be able to tell that, oh, you missed putting that line in between and you put that white line later. No one's going to see it because there are too many white lines in the whole mosaic, right? So that is one fix. Either you join, make a bigger shape, or wait for it to completely dry, then insert the white with a jelly roll pen. Proceeding to yellow, more yellow. Now, how you place these shapes, as you place them, you will notice that how you place them matters, because now the shapes are suggesting movement. Can you see a sense of movement here? Very similar to Van Gogh's Starry Night. Yeah. So mosaics can be used very intentionally to suggest shape, movement in a shape, not just the shape, but movement inside a shape. And if you want that, usually you will notice that there is some line maintenance. Now, do you notice that I have a parallel line running here and another parallel line running here, right? A very clear white line running through and through. That is what is suggesting the shape. Had I to do mosaics like this, disorganized, that consistent white line running through would not be there. And so that would not indicate any movement. It is when you place them very strategically in the same kind of a sequence is when the movement comes in. So you can plan these things also. So where would this be handy? Where can you use movement as a fact, as a something that's useful in your picture? If your picture has something like waves, ocean waves, you may want to show this movement going up. So let's say your wave goes up like this. Okay. So if you place your blocks coming in all the way neatly up and down, and you place all these kind of curves next to each other, you will see that movement of line, the curve, sorry. Okay. So some artists I know definitely employ this strategy to create like a kind of a parallel line progression and show movement in their art. Okay, we'll stop over here because now you've got the understanding of two things. One, that you can place shapes in a certain series and get movement. You can also use colors strategically to get gradient, kind of a gradient. Okay, started off with red, went to orange, went to yellow, and you have a natural gradient showing. Okay. Now, after this, let's go to the example where we are bounding. Now we are creating an actual shape. Okay. And to create the shape, I will draw let's draw a star. A star. And around the star, let's draw a circle. What looks like a circle? We are not being very exact about this. Around that circle, I'm going to put one more circle. Now, this would be the basis of what we are going to make a mosaic out of. So when you are creating a mosaic, try, unless you want to just build something randomly without any thought, without let's see where it goes kind of a thing, you will need to draw a basic pencil outline. Keep that in mind. Okay. A basic pencil outline of something that you are intending to draw will be required, because on a white sheet of paper, you can't make out where one ends. Like if I start doing this, unless I do the tip of my curve, where do I go on with this? Where do I stop? Where does it turn? So you need these boundaries marked in pencil. Now here we have an actual, this is how we would actually take a picture and turn it into a mosaic. So we have a star and a circle and another circle. I have to think through the colors a little bit before I place them. So here, what I may want to do is the outer circle in one color, inner circle in one color, and the star in another color. Okay. But I don't want to make them three very different colors. I want to make them very cohesive. So let's say I take pink for the star, pink or crimson for the star. And then I go into light blue, and then I go into dark blue. Very colors that blend well or work well with each other. Okay. But this time, I am not going to stick to one shape. I'm going to make different shapes. I'm going to fit shapes as I see fit. Okay. I will just, one more thing I will do is I will just erase this center line here, because I don't want to go over pencil with watercolor. We know, right, that once we go over pencil marks with watercolor, you can't erase them. So I'm just erasing these connector lines in between, which I don't want because I'm going to go over it. Yeah, I just want a star to look like this. Yeah. So I've erased the connector lines. Now I'm going to start with carmine. I've changed my brush to a size 0 now, because I'm going into small spaces. And in small spaces, I will have to reduce the size of my brush so I can fit. Start from whatever is most convenient for you. So for me, this triangle here seems like, okay, good place to start. Okay. After this, I feel like going into this part here. And creating a funny shape. This is not a shape only. Next to it, I'd like to make another, maybe a parallelogram, or what looks like a parallelogram. And in this space, Now, can you see that I'm just fitting whatever shape I can in the space that I have? A thinner brush will allow for the gaps to be nice and thin. Dip into water, dip into paint differently each time. There, star done. I've almost touched that line in some places. It's perfectly fine. Now we'll go to cerulean blue. I already have a little bit of cerulean blue here. But this time I'm maintaining a wash consistency because I don't want my cerulean to get very, very dark. Now we are going to fit whatever shape we want in the inner circle. So let's start with close by here. Somebody asked me in the other class, how do you know which shape to start with? Where to start with? Where to start inside of a shape? Now the answer to that is, where do you want to start? Some people may find it convenient to start at the edge, meaning a curved edge. So I may like to do something like this. Okay. Somebody else may think, no, I already have the shape. So let me start here. There is no rule about where to start, where you must start. There is no rule. Start wherever you feel best, because at the end of the day, you're filling up the whole space. Okay. So no need to look at what I'm doing now. Now you're on your own. We are simply filling up this whole shape as you see fit. So your mosaic is going to look different from my mosaic, but we are not going to be able to tell because no one is looking at the individual shape. At this point, I can tell you that if your shapes start to get small, very small, your mosaic is going to just get very tedious to do. So every few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, stop painting and just look at your shapes. Observe them and see whether you're getting into some sort of a pattern of getting smaller. Okay, if you are, correct it. In the next shape, make sure that it is nice and big or proportionate to what you had put initially. It is a natural tendency. So this level, I'm not going very smaller. I'm going, my pieces are bigger than the star. Watery cerulean blue, this is what the one that I'm using. Doesn't it have a charm when it is uneven like this? Some of them light, some of them dark. Like colored glass. As you come closer to the edge, remember, you are going to make a shape that has a little bit of a curve at one end. The ones that are on the outer part, they're going to have this funny curve. 3 sides are straight and one side is curved because of the circle. At this point, we are also not doing any blending of colors inside of a shape. You're not doing that. Because we bounded our shape, do you notice that the mosaics we have put here, the white lines are going anyhow. There is no demarcation for the white line to follow. Like, for example, here it turns left, here it turns right. There is no real shape, right? And where there is no real shape, there is also no, what shall I say? A sense of a boundary. I'll tell you what that means maybe when we put in our next color. Very therapeutic mosaics can be. Yeah? You can sit at this for hours. Okay, there's my first mistake. It is waiting to happen. My shape has joined the shape above. See? Okay. So I really would not want to join this because it becomes quite big. Instead, I'll just leave it there. And when it has fully dried, I will put my white mark. This will happen. Best to accept that it will happen. Another thing I would recommend is if you feel that you need a shape boundary before you color in, do that. Does not hurt to do that. What I mean is, in this space, I would like to first put my boundaries of the shape. So this way and this way. I draw this and then I put in the color. That's perfectly fine. Draw the shape and then put in the color. So pink and blue. And now we'll take ultramarine. This time let's take a little less of a wash and more of ultramarine, or even cobalt will be nice because they are both on the darker side. Whatever works for you. Here we are just trying to get the difference in color shown. So now we are going to go on the outer edge. Everyone moving at the same pace, or do I need to wait? Anyone wants me to wait? No? Okay, great. If anyone wants me to wait, please tell me. Now, this is just my thought. I can go around this place using different shapes like I used here, or I can go around this because it is quite, sorry?
Wait for 2 minutes, please.
Yeah. No problem. No, I'm just discussing this. Okay, I'm not painting it. Yeah. So I'm thinking that I can go around this outer circle with square-like shapes, even shapes, or I can go with uneven shapes, and they will have a different effect. So for today's exercise, just to show you all, I'm going to do half this outer circle in fixed shapes and half the outer circle in mixed shapes. Okay? It's almost a perfect rhyme, mixed and fixed shapes. Give me one moment. Not many watercolor artists are into mosaics. So if you are looking for someone whose work you can look at for inspiration, for ideas, you should consider looking at Anna Victoria Calderon, I think. She's on Instagram. If those of you who have Skillshare, she's also on Skillshare. She's an excellent mosaic artist. I think she went on a trip with her students to some place and saw these mosaics, and they decided to try mosaics. And ever since, I think she's been taking up so many mosaic projects and such big ones in watercolor, which are so pretty. Absolutely a delight to watch. So if you want to look up some of her work and see how she makes a mosaic, she uses all sorts of blending of colors and even the shapes. She uses all sorts of different shapes. So she's very versatile in mosaics. You should check her out. And she makes some very fantastic ones, really fantastic ones. Alka and Zai, you all right to continue? Or
Yeah. Interview.
okay, okay. So as I discussed, one half I'm going to do it this way, but if you don't want to do it, you can do it whatever way you like. But just for us to compare at the end, I will do one side in one set of shapes. I hope you're noticing that the gaps between shapes are more or less consistent. Huh? Watch out for the gaps. Make sure they are not very different from each other. I've had too many occasions where I have started a mosaic, put on a podcast, and only realized the time when the milkman rang the bell in the morning. It has happened.
So how did you start this mosaic thing?
I had seen somebody's mosaic. I'll tell you, I teach a bunch of kids from church, and I was out of ideas. Okay, it's like a weekly, just trying to encourage the kids to paint more. It started in the lockdown, and so they asked me, "Can you teach something?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure, I can teach. Come, let's do flowers." And they were like, "No, no, no, the kids have already done flowers." Everything I threw at them was like, "Oh, the kids have already done this. The kids have already done this." I was like, "Then what do I teach kids?" So I went on Pinterest and then I looked at watercolor techniques, watercolor ideas for watercolor topics for kids and all that. And I stumbled upon mosaic. And I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And I stumbled upon Anna's work also, a lot of Anna's work. And I thought to myself, "Oh, this is interesting. This is really interesting. She's done such fabulous stuff." So I said, "Okay, let me try mosaics. I'm sure the kids have not done mosaics." So I asked, and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, never done mosaics. Wonderful. Let's just try this." So 1 week I sat at it, and I myself prepared, did a lot of R&D, and figured that this is such a beautiful style and so few people have done. So such a few number of artists have explored it.
That's nice. So the kids were able to do it patiently.
You won't believe the kids were able to follow perfectly. I think one of those classes where I did not have to tell anybody to keep quiet.
That's so nice.
Sorry?
That's so nice.
Yeah,
When
I
they-
know. Because normally when you're teaching kids, they are
Confident.
just talking and they have questions and they have, which is expected. I mean, I'm not saying that you expect it from kids, but this was one class where they just kept quiet and they just did. And I had to ask, are y'all okay? Are y'all able to manage? And they were all able to manage. They were all able to paint. So it was a really nice. That's how I stumbled on mosaics. Yeah. Acha, now that my half is done, a little more in fact than half, I'm going to change my shapes, mixed shapes now. Okay. Kids can do a lot more than we limit them actually. If you show them, they can do lots of things. On your book if it feels convenient.
So you're picking the color directly from the box?
No, I have a
Or you
I have a little bit of I have a little bit of a pool here, which I've already made, like so that I don't have to keep dipping into the water jar. I have kept this portion hydrated with a little bit of my cobalt. And I, from time to time, I will touch this and then touch this and then come so that I get a deeper
Okay.
shade. If I keep touching this, I'm going to keep getting the same light shade. So sometimes I just dip here a bit and then come and paint.
Okay.
And sometimes when the water runs out, I have to anyway add a little more water. So that time my paint will subside and the lighter shades will start coming. So I'm not thinking through that portion. Just see, now I dipped into dark and I've got this uneven shade. I'm leaving it uneven. It's okay. There you go. I don't know. Do you all have an opinion on which one is better?
Both are interesting, but I feel the even shapes highlight the inside mosaic more.
Correct. That's exactly it. So it is now another person told me when I asked this question, told me, but you know what? Mosaics can't be even shaped, no, all the time. So when we cut glass, when we cut tile, we don't always get a square. So I said, that's right. You don't get a square. I'm not saying that you do. But sometimes you may actually cut the glass in a perfect way just to get one portion as squares. So it's perfectly all right to do this as like intersperse it in your mixed mosaics. So like you said, if you want to bound something. Now, another thing I want to you to notice is because we had this outer boundary, what happened is our white line got undivided attention here. See, there is that. This is what demarcates the two shapes, this inner circle and the outer circle, because we placed our mosaics in such a way that this white has become unbroken, right? That is why this is looking like one circle and another circle. Otherwise, had this white not been there, suppose we had not done two separate circles, suppose there was no pencil mark here, what would have happened? Some of these shapes would have gone outside of these lines. And when they go outside of the line, you cannot see the shape. You cannot see two concentric circles, right? So only a change in your color would show you. Now the star is looking different from the white, the lighter circle, because it is a star, a change of shape and a change of color. Had I done the star in the same cerulean blue, would you be able to make out it was a star? You would not be able to make out, right? So in order to form or let a shape stand out, one of two things you have to do. One is either you change the color. You change the color and definitely that shape will stand out. And the other is that you actually you place your shapes very intentionally, and you will be able to see another shape. For example, the outer circle and the inner circle. Now, if we had done the outer circle in cerulean blue and the inner circle also in cerulean blue, while it is not very clear, you would still be able to see this circular line because all of the shapes maintained one boundary. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to get at. My point is that the separation of shapes in a mosaic can be because of color, can be also because of the boundary line along which you have aligned these mosaics. Okay.
So that is one of the things when we did the tile workshop also. She told us that when you're making a design, where are your demarcating lines? Those have to be very clear. And you have to place your mosaic on either side. And also the sometimes they grind them to fit the shapes. Correct. Because tile will break anyhow.
Yes.
A particular shape to fit into a particular niche, or that has happened or whatever. So then they will grind those tiles to get them to fit it.
Correct, correct. So when you want,
then you will grind the tiles to get that peppy.
Correct, correct. No, she's absolutely right. So it is the shape demarcation and the boundary of the shape that determines I mean that determines the shape of your piece next to that boundary. So the piece has to now align to that boundary. Now, of course, when we are doing watercolor, it is very simple. There is no grinding, there is no nothing. You just change your shape. So therefore, these shapes at the corner will be funny shapes. They will be funny. They will not be triangles. See, it is a triangle with a curve. Like one of the edges has curved, but we have aligned it that way. So yeah, that is bound to happen. Now, I want to, before we proceed to making our, we'll make a nice piece over here of an image that we want to make a mosaic out of. I just wanted to show you that you can make a mosaic with similar shapes, with mixed shapes, okay? And the difference will be as you can see it here, okay? You have to draw your shapes beforehand, before you start your mosaic work. So if you're drawing waves and things like that, remember to draw these kind of outlines beforehand. So I'm drawing this. These kind of shapes have to be done upfront and then filled in with the mosaic pieces that you want. Here you can also demarcate the shapes with color, different types of color. So you may want a lighter wave here and a darker wave here. All that is possible when you make a drawing of it. I want to show you making an irregular mosaic. So how about we try a mosaic with circles? Okay. I'm going to take green. Let's draw ourselves a shape. What shape shall we draw? In fact, okay, that was going to be another exercise, but let's take what shape? Something pretty. Not pretty, anything will do. Doesn't matter. Last time I did a heart. Should I do a heart again? Let's do an arrow. Or a chevron. Is it a chevron? I'm just trying to see what kind of a shape. Yeah, okay, we'll leave it this way. I'm taking green. This time, I'm going to go in with circles, only circles. And we are not modifying our circles for the edges. Okay, here we modified our triangles and all that for the edges. We are not modifying these circles. So what's going to happen is, I'm going to get circles of different sizes involved. So when the space is clear, you can put circles just about where you like. Be using a smaller brush. This is just to experiment and see whether it works for you or not. And circles, you will notice, are so weird. We can't leave the kind of white space the way we left with geometric shapes. Now I'm filling in with all the smaller circles. What look like dots now. Not very comfortable to do because the gaps are not even. See, the white spaces are not even. But despite that, the shape has formed. We are getting what looks like an arrowhead. Technically, this is also a mosaic. It will work in a larger piece. You may have to think it through where you want to put it. But you may not see too many examples of it on the net if you're looking for inspiration. Okay. One more thing I wanted to talk to you about is the balance between mosaic and solid color. And we will do that in our picture also. But sometimes every single shape in your picture does not need mosaic shapes. Not every one of it requires mosaic shape. Okay. You may find that certain small sections can go with a solid color. What I mean is, this star, for example, the difference that I could make here was that I could make this entire star one single piece without a mosaic and surround it by mosaic shapes. So you don't have to do this, but you can watch me correct the star just for our understanding. Now, this is actually a very nice balance between mosaic broken pieces and a whole piece in between. It usually works best for small pieces. If you feel that inside your bigger work, there are these small sections that may stand out better if they were a solid color, use that. And use the solid color because it really does make a difference. Everything does not have to be mosaic. Now to show you how that works, I'll show you why it has failed at certain places. Okay. Now this was a mosaic I had made, I think, on an Insta live. This is nice. There's nothing wrong with what I did. But what didn't work here was that I put a mosaic for the entire AS alphabet and the flowers and everything, but I did also put a background. And the background is also mosaic. Now what's happened is it's all too much mosaic. I don't have a respite. The eye doesn't have a respite from mosaic. Okay. So what I could have done here is either one, not put a background at all, because the solid white would have worked perfectly fine. But had I wanted a background, maybe the background could have been a solid blue, meaning not a mosaic blue, same blue, but not a mosaic. We could have just put a wash blue, an entire wash blue, and that would have made our S and the flowers stand out because those are mosaic, right? So these are lessons you will learn as you go. Now, in addition to this, I realized that the other thing is you have to do from experience, you have to figure when you need a background and when you don't. Sometimes the colors are a bit light. See now this S, the red on the S and the yellow, in addition to the blue, it's not standing out because it could have just stood on its own. So look at this one. No background. And straight away, now had I put a blue background to this, the vegetables and the fruits would not stand out as well, right? So you have to be able to decide when you may want a background or when you may not want one. And if you want a background, should it be mosaic? Should it not be mosaic? Certain elements inside this. Now look at I tried mosaic for the this stem of the apple, but I did not do it for the pear. These are also excellent choices. You have to decide. Now, given after doing it differently, I realized that this is a better option for me personally. This is a better option than this because it gives me a break from the rest of the mosaic. A single strip that is solid color, right? Not to say that this will not work. This will work, but I preferred this eventually. So you have to just look at your work and see what balance you want to strike. Okay. Let's go on to our final picture. Final picture, when you're picking a picture.
So Susan,
yeah,
I have a question for the circles that you use, right? So
yeah.
if we have small gaps, can we use semicircles or we have to stick to circles then? If
In this example, I was sticking to circles, and at best, like I have done this one exercise once before, where what I did was where at the edges, you will notice that there are too many gaps, and it's a little it throws you off a bit to have these kind of gaps over here. See here at the edges.
Yeah, that's what.
So there, what I have done is you use circles and cut them off. That means like you're saying semicircles, but you are using them more as cut-out shapes. Now, for example, I may put a circle here, but 3/4 of that circle may actually come in the picture before the line cuts it off. Okay. So you can do that. Yes, you can do that but what will happen is then if you put something on the other side, it's not going to make sense. The shape is going to look incomplete. Right? Whereas with these shapes, what happens is even if I make a funny shape like this, okay, it's like some weird shape. Even if I make a shape like this, it looks like the shape is complete. It doesn't require something on the other side to complete it. It looks like, okay, some weird shape, some weird geometric shape, which is looking complete on its own. So whatever I put on the other side is not meant to complete it. But over here, if I put a circle on this side, suppose I put a half a circle, I don't know where to. Suppose I'm just showing you that this is your line, okay? And at the end of that line, you have put a semicircle because you wanted to meet that line. Okay, this is what you did. But what's going to happen on the other side of the line? If you do this now, this is not going to make sense.
Yeah,
right?
got it.
This is not going to make sense. So that is why you have to decide where you're doing it and whether you really want to make this half circle. What is on the other side? Now, if it's a standalone picture like this, if it's a standalone shape, it's fine. Perfectly fine to do this. Nothing is on the other side. It's okay. But if there is something more coming, this may look funny. Now, if on the other side you have a wash, it's perfectly fine. No problem. Right? So
Yeah.
two shapes on either side of the line are not clashing. That's fine. It's perfectly fine to use broken shapes. Yeah. Okay. Now we will pick, if you're picking pictures from Pinterest that you would like to make mosaics, I would recommend, this is my personal experience, I would recommend looking for vector images. Vector images, because vector images are able to show you some solid colors and help you picture the object you want to draw in a way that is closest to your mosaic that you are eventually going to make. Okay. When you look at actual photographs, now and I'll show you the example. Let me show you, because then you'll understand. I would like to illustrate a bird. Okay. And if I go to Pinterest and I type what are the toucan? Okay, toucan bird, the bird toucan. If I say toucan bird, you're going to get a picture of a toucan. Oh, these are all, in fact, wait. Toucan photography. Okay, this is your real toucan. You can use this as your reference. There's no problem. Okay. Uh, Only thing is there may be some interferences of like this bark over here, which is showing gradients, which you can't catch in your mosaic, right? So this may throw you off. Now, toucan is still okay. Have you seen his beak? There may be certain portions where you are not sure what to do with these blue marks. Okay. So what I felt is searching for the vector image is a little easier. So if I say toucan, I will get these kind of images. These kind of images. Okay. Gives me a clearer idea of where the colors will land and how I want to put my shading. Although I don't want that particular one. I don't mind something like this. See? The demarcation of 3 shades. Very clear. It helps me understand where I want to draw my lines for the mosaic. Okay. So how about we try one of these kind of exotic birds? Would a toucan work for all of you? I have some already saved. I can share. Or would you like to do something of a scenery? Sorry? I don't know, to be very honest. We can do something like this. We can do this. Or we can do, I thought like sceneries and mosaics are so common actually, to be honest. I thought a bird maybe something different. A fatter face.
Because
This
if
one,
it's too narrow, then it doesn't really give you very much scope.
yes, correct. The wider your picture is, the better your shapes get. Yes, the better your shapes get. You're right. You're absolutely right. So maybe let's try this guy. Although he's not as colorful as I would like. Not that you should have everything too colorful. There's nothing wrong with actually like that toucan, you know. He was very like this guy here. Only thing is we have to deal with the several shades of black. There's nothing wrong with black. You can use black. We just don't use it often. But let's try. What's the harm, no? Let's try. Toucan vector. I'll look for a toucan that is. I'll put it on the group. I'll put it on the group. To see if I can capture something that has a same toucan. Okay. Let's do this picture. Download image. Share to the group. So I've shared this toucan. We need not do everything in this picture. We can consider just drawing the bird and one banana leaf or one of those tropical leaves, whichever we like. May not be both. Let's draw and see. I'm not going to make the toucan very small. I have like an entire section here of page. So I'm not going to make him very small. Also, our time is short. We are already at 42. So we are going to have to complete this at home. But once you have that picture, you'll be able to work it. Okay, it's not going to fit over there. Too close to the edge. I think I'll start from the edge and then. We can change a few colors. Huh? There is no rule that we have to keep it. No branch. I'm not going to draw the branch. I'm going to just at this point, we want color demarcation. So this is one color, another color. Yeah. If you're up to it, please go ahead and put one more leaf. Huh? Because anyway, we're going to finish this at home later. So if you're up to putting a few more things, go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's start with the guy's beak. So look at your shape. Huh? It is quite a simple sketch. We haven't done anything too big. This is all going to get erased after your mosaic is fully dry. Fully dry. We are going to go over and erase all the lines that are showing. When you have a shape like this, determine which ones you want to make large and which ones you want to make small. Now the body of the toucan, you're going to go in with black. Let's not make the mosaic on the body very small. It's going to take you a long time. Okay. I'll start with the colors I see. We are starting with an orange mixed with scarlet. Orange and scarlet mix. Next one will be just an orange. And the last will be orange and Gamboge. Or maybe only Gamboge also. That's also fine. I told you, no, mosaic leaves everybody quiet.
We are like the kids in church.
Yes, absolutely. Absolute silence. I had to check my Zoom setting once or twice to see did I get logged out? No. Everyone was just being genuinely quiet. But what I like about mosaics, and I must say this, is that it makes even the simplest pictures look so very pretty, right? Such an instant appeal. If you think about it, I mean, what is this picture? Is not nothing great. It's just a shape. Even this, for example, just a shape, nothing great. But the mosaic made it so nice. Now this is the shading part. Huh? We are lightening the shade so that we can see. So only if you experiment, you'll figure what you like, what works for you, and what doesn't work. Huh? Sometimes this regular shape business really does work for some people or for certain projects that you take up. So be willing to play around and figure out what you like. All right. Now comes the gamboge only because I already mixed my. So this is the deviation. I've deviated from the picture. I'm making it quite. I did this with the other class also. I should tell you that mosaics are excellent for borders. Excellent. You can make so many lovely borders with mosaics. If you have no idea what to do for maybe some lettering work that you're doing and you don't know what to do, you just want a border, floral border is just overdone. Sometimes you don't want to do a floral border. Please consider mosaics. Mosaic borders are so very pretty. When you're using black, water it down and then use it so that it doesn't become too stuck. A little bit of gray showing through is fine. Now he's got some peachish shade over there near his eye. Let me look at a few other references and see whether there are other options. So the eye can have yellow, the eye can have orange. I think I'll go with yellow. I've seen one toucan here with yellow. So I'm going to change the color and make it yellow. Lemon yellow. His eye, black eye is going to be a solid color. Huh? So you can leave it for later, do it. That's up to you. It's done. By the way, our toucan has a shape over here. Seems to be, I mean, I'm just adding complexity to the matter. It seems to be something like this. Have you noticed? He's got a slight shape over there. For that, I'm taking carmine and putting a little bit of yellow ochre into carmine. It's going to give me like an orangish hue. And in a watered, absolutely watered down this thing. Let me see how it looks. If you want to test it out, please test it out. Bit dark. Maybe not that color. Let's try this. This is orange. Yeah, I'll go with orange. Watered down orange. In thin areas like this, you can just put like almost what looks like vertical lines, like this. Mosaics like this in thin spaces. Yeah. I want to let these things dry before I go in with the black. So I'm going to do the leaf. Carmine. Change the colors if you want to. Please don't restrict yourself to the image that you have. I'm starting to feel, this is my sense, that these gaps we have put on the leaf, they are not going to stand out too much in our mosaic. So the banana leaf is not going to look like a, the wedges in the banana leaf are not going to stand out much, is my feeling. These wedges at the end. It's fine. If it doesn't, it's okay. We're at 56. If anyone needs to leave at 11, please do so. But you can complete this at home and maybe share it on the group. It'd be nice to see how everyone's made their For purple, I will be mixing in some, what is it? Ultramarine blue and little bit of crimson. Alka has made that mosaic in her book, which looks so lovely. I think dal vada, is it? I forget what the recipe was.
Yeah, dal vada.
Yeah, very lovely mosaic.
I love doing mosaics. It's like that's fun.
Therapeutic, you know? Very therapeutic.
So all this
There
stuff like mosaic, mandala, and all that, you don't have to think. You know,
yeah.
like you don't have to think that there is a light coming from here, is the shade okay, is this
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah. Correct,
You
correct,
just
correct.
continue doing it.
Yes. In fact, the whole point is actually, I wouldn't say it's not thinking. It is just that
No,
the
it's not
brain,
thinking.
yeah, it is the brain likes patterns. And this is patterns. It's just many, 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 many things that the brain loves to settle into some sort of a thing. So that's very true. It's a very lovely feeling.
I think it's something that people who are organized would love to do because it just so fits in with their
Absolutely.
personality. Everything fits into neatly.
Correct. No, you're absolutely right. I'm telling you, I used to do this a lot when I needed this when things get stressful and you just want you don't want to do something intentional when you're stressed out. You just want something that the brain needs to, tell the brain to relax. Don't think about anything. You focus your energies on making some shapes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like very
Yeah,
calming.
very calming. Yeah. I'm taking some liberties here with colors. You can choose what you want to do. I didn't want the same shade of pink, so I went with cerulean blue here. Anyway, it's an exotic leaf. It's not going to. I want to do one mosaic with making the bird of paradise flower.
Wow.
It'll be very lovely if I was able to do that.
Yeah.
Although a little challenging because all the shapes would be a little small, but pretty. There. Now I'm going to go in with the black. We are at 11:1. I'll do a little bit of this. Just for the eye, I'm going to go out of my way and put that extra circle. Otherwise, the black is not going to stand out very well. So I put for the eye a circle followed by a ring. And now to start this portion. I've got to make a very conscious effort to keep the shapes big for the black. Not to go very small with the shapes because we will not finish your mosaic at that rate. And it is also nice to have a blend of two shapes, two sizes. If all your mosaic is one size, nothing wrong with it. It's just it breaks this thing for the eye. A lot of what you appreciate is because your eye appreciates it. I think I'll have to stop. But how's it going for everyone? How are your two cans looking? Taking shape? At home. How are all of you doing? Anything that you'd like to share? You know what? My personal observation on this is I think the tip of his beak, which is black, it's nice the way I've done it, but it may be nicer if I left it entirely black, because it's such a small piece and it is so prominent. So I'm going to make a change here. I'm going to change this to a solid black. Again, it's a question of balance, and I feel this will look good. Complete this bird and you're going to have a real stunning picture. It's going to look really nice. Anybody wants to share what they've already done? Oh, wait. No, this is going to be a problem because of that blur. How do we unblur you? Ritika, you're sharing something?
Yeah, I just wanted to show you. Sorry, I'm at outside my
No,
mom's
that's fine.
house,
That's
so
fine. That's fine. That's fine.
it's little.
Very
I'm not
nice.
sure.
Where I can see. Very nice.
Okay.
And how's the bird coming along? Oh, nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, nice.
Super. It's looking nice, Ritika.
I find it very therapeutic, Susan.
Yeah. Yes, it is. You
I mean, I'm
should.
just continuing, like, I mean,
Yeah,
I was finding you like a music, it's going on and
It is. You should consider doing. So I'll tell you one thing. Of loose florals, and mosaics, keep them as your backup for there. One minute. Let me mute, replace spotlight. Very nice. Very nice. That guy is looking, very good. So you've got your shades very nicely going. Yeah, nice. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Who else? Varsha is holding up. Hold on. Varsha is holding up. Let's see. Nice. Varsha, your pieces are becoming smaller and smaller in the beak. Nothing wrong with it, Varsha. It's just going to be more tedious for you. Nothing wrong with it. So you can consider making them bigger. Maybe the body. Now that you're getting to the body, definitely consider bigger pieces for the body. Okay, I'll tell you what happens. When you disjoint, make more and more small pieces, the picture starts to also get disjoint. Meaning, it takes more effort for the eye that is seeing to notice the full space. Okay. So when you have, let's say, multiple fractions in this space, it becomes very difficult for the eye to see it as a whole. So if your pieces are less in number, the color stands more bold. Whereas when you have more pieces and more white space, there is less color. It's simple as that. It's just the balance between white space and and color, right? So the more pieces you have, the more white space you have, which means the eye is unable to see the whole black color that you want to try and show. So that is why I will always tell you, sit back after every few minutes of color being put. Sit back and just look. Are my pieces getting small? Have I become small intentionally, or have I become small by mistake? Like, when you sometimes don't stop, you don't realize that you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. That happens to all of us, not just you. If you think it's you, it's not just you. It happens to all of us. Have you noticed when you write a long text, a paragraph, the size of your alphabet at the beginning of the paragraph and the size of your alphabet at the end of the paragraph are not the same, right? So it is the same way. It is the same way with mosaic shapes. So stop in between and look. My shapes okay? Are they big? Are they small? Are they getting uneven? Are they getting too fragmented? Just sit. Just look at it, and sit back and look at it. But it's looking nice. Everyone see, that's the thing. You can seldom go wrong with a mosaic. Seldom. And you can almost always have fun. So if this was good, try a few mosaics at home. I use mosaics and florals as my reset button for when I go through a lull. So sometimes when you go on a holiday, like I go on holidays, and then what happens? You don't paint for a little time, and then you come back to painting. You don't know what to start with. You don't know what to do first. So when you are at a point where you're not sure what to do next, what to start first, what to start painting florals or start doing mosaics. Okay. They kind of get you out of that zone of, I don't know what to do. After you make a few loose florals, I'm telling you, your hands get loose, really loose. And then you start to feel like, okay, yes, now I can progress to something else, maybe landscapes, maybe a picture, maybe a portrait, whatever. So use these kind of things as you're dividing. The other thing I have another problem with is when I have many things to do. I don't know which one to do. I have so many things to do, lots of things lined up. What do I do? So then I break off from everything that I have to do and do a mosaic, a heart mosaic, whatever, small things. And it resets your brain. So use it that way. All right. So this is all for mosaics. I think very straightforward, nothing to, no rocket science here. Just a lot of calm, peaceful breathing. And you will be fine. Yeah. Go check out Anna Victoria Calderon. See her wonderful works. See if you can make a work of your own that is just as exquisite. You may just find some inspiration. All right. And please post pictures on the group.
Thank you, Susan. It was very lovely.
Yeah, lovely session. Thank you.
Mosaics
Very
are always
nice
lovely.
class.
I'm telling you, everyone enjoys mosaics. Seldom goes wrong and everyone has fun. So good. Next week we make, Elaine had asked for some envelope art, but if you do you all have any other suggestions? I mean, I'll do it with the Tuesday batch envelope art, but do you have something else you'd like to do?
We can continue with that. No problem.
Envelopes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. If you all are okay with it, because I know Aditi has done envelopes a few times and we have done different types of envelopes. So if you, I absolutely understand if you want to do something else, or if you feel like we can do envelope. Yeah. Okay. So then in that case, if you're doing envelopes, get some jelly roll pens that you have lying around, maybe white. If you have the set, then bring the set. Similarly, brown paper. We could try something on brown paper that is with white jelly roll pen. Okay. We could try that. So just keep a few options other than watercolor with you. So that in case we make a few envelopes we don't have to make envelopes tomorrow, because I think everybody knows how to make envelopes. I don't want to waste too much of time making an envelope.
Nice colored envelopes available, plain colored envelopes.
So what I was thinking was, instead of spending any time during class making an envelope, make the envelope you have, make it at home itself, like beforehand, and let's start directly painting and illustrating on the envelope. Okay. Yeah. So let's not make the envelope in class. Make whatever different type, and so that's what I'm saying. Keep a few varieties. Keep your white color envelope for sure, like made from normal drawing paper. But also have some colored ones, and if possible, a brown one. So that we can do something illustrative on that. And keep a few mediums other than watercolor ready, like sketch pens or pencil colors or jelly roll pens. These are all great options. Okay. All right. Okay. So see you next Saturday.
Yeah. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.